Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down one of the most common and, honestly, one of the most misunderstood pieces of financial advice you will ever hear.
I'm sure you've heard this a million times, maybe from a friend, a family member, or some guru you follow online. It usually sounds a little something like this.
It sounds so simple, right? The perfect can't-lose strategy. But is it really going to get you where you want to go? Is it about playing it safe, or is it actually holding you back from real wealth? To figure that out, we have to know what this thing even is.
All right, first things first. What is the S&P 500? Well, at its heart, it's how we measure the market.
You know, you always hear people talking about beating the market. Well, this is it. This is the benchmark. The whole game for active investors is to do better than this number. So, for our chat today, let's just keep it simple. The S&P 500 is the market.
Okay, let's get some perspective here. Think about this. All around the world, there are something like 20,000 companies, big ones, pulling in over $1 billion in revenue a year. That is a huge number of businesses.
Now, out of all those 20,000 giants, the S&P 500, it's just the top 500. Not just any 500, mind you. We're talking the biggest, most valuable, most important companies based in the US, which, let's be real, often means the most important in the world.
So, get this. When you put your money into the S&P 500, you're not just throwing darts at a board. You are buying a small piece of the absolute cream of the crop, the best of the best.
Okay, so if you're buying into the best of the best, it kind of makes sense why people see this as the super safe way to go, right? Let's talk about why it's got this reputation as a safe harbor for your money.
The whole idea is pretty straightforward. You invest for the long run. We're talking 10 years minimum. You just ignore all the crazy ups and downs in the short term. And it's a fantastic way to fight inflation. Why? Well, when governments print more money, a lot of that cash ends up flowing into these huge companies. That pushes their value up and helps your savings keep their buying power. And honestly, if you look at history, sticking with it for a decade or two has been an incredibly solid bet.
And hey, this isn't just some advice you find on a random blog. This is a core idea from one of the greatest investors ever, Warren Buffett. It's his go-to advice for anyone who doesn't have the time or, let's face it, the knowledge to play the high-stakes stock-picking game.
But if you need the ultimate seal of approval, check this out. The U.S. government itself invests $1,000 for every single baby born in America right into the S&P 500. I mean, think about that. If that doesn't tell you it's considered a foundational, super safe asset, I don't know what does.
Okay, so it's safe, it's got the government stamp of approval, it's the benchmark. But, and this is a huge but, here's where the story completely changes. This is the part that separates just keeping your head above water from actually building life-changing wealth.
I really want you to let this one sink in, because if you take away one thing from this explainer, this is it. The S&P 500 will not make you rich. It's a strategy to not get poor. It's a wealth preservation tool. Why? Because by its very definition, you're just getting the average result.
And this chart here, it just lays it all out perfectly. You've got two different games. On one side, you're playing defense. You're matching the market. You're preserving your wealth against inflation. On the other side, you're playing offense. You are actively trying to crush the market average to build some serious new wealth. You've got to know which game you're actually trying to play.
Right, so if the S&P 500 isn't the path to riches, then what is? Well, that brings us to the second path, the much, much harder path, the one that means you have to beat the market.
Look, winning this game isn't about being lucky. It's about two things. First, you have to know more than everybody else. You need an edge, some kind of insight the average investor just doesn't have. And knowing a few buzzwords like DCA or PE ratio, that ain't it. Second, you gotta have the guts to take big, calculated risks on that knowledge. We're talking individual stocks, maybe even all-in bets.
This quote here just says it all, doesn't it? It's a bit of a gut check. You see these titans like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg? They went all in. But it wasn't a blind gamble. Behind that all-in move, they're exceptionally smart. They have an informational edge. The brutal question is, are you?
So look, understanding these two totally different paths is everything. It's not about saying one is right and one is wrong, not at all. It's about giving you the clarity to make a real choice, one that's based on what you actually want and an honest look at what you actually know. This table just puts it in black and white. What is your goal? If you're thinking, hey, I just want to keep up with inflation and make sure my savings are worth something in 20 years, then yeah, the S&P 500 is a fantastic answer.
But if you're thinking, I want to build game-changing wealth, I want that Ferrari, I want to be a millionaire, then you have to accept that being average just isn't going to cut it.
And really, that's what this all boils down to. What is your primary goal? Is it to beat inflation, or is it to beat the market? Seriously, answering that one question is the very first and probably the most important step you'll ever take on your investment journey. Because once you know which game you're playing, then you can start figuring out how to win.